it's time to make another ENTJ video, not because this is what I want to do, it's just because of what people keep bringing up, and so I get inspiration to cover certain subjects based on Facebook groups and things like that. And very rarity is a female ENTJ, but they do exist. My own personal sister is one, and there's a few inside the Facebook group, and they brought up a question. It's like, wait, what do you mean, how do I get to work on my NI parent function? I never get to do what I want. Why is this? Well, whenever you have a hesitation, no matter what 16 types you are, your typical hesitations go to come from your inferior function, because this is your fear. And so your fears is going to keep you stagnant and keep you stuck. Um, so what would keep an ENTJ stuck? Well, let me just get this out of the way. I have not met an ENFJ or an ENTJ, and I've over at least over 10 at least been very rare people, but they've always seemed to kind of know where they're going, and they seem to be more responsible, typically even at a young age, even in their 20s. I have never met one that doesn't have a degree and didn't kind of have a good trajectory in life. I have never met a loser ENTJ or a loser ENFJ. I've met asshole ENTJs or asshole ENFJs or things like that, but they always kind of know where they're going. And so this is kind of interesting. But then they can reach a point in life, we're going to stick on ENTJs, where they no longer know where they're going and they're just kind of stuck in a rut. And what is this? Well, probably when they were in college or when they were, just working a lunch, because the ENTJs love to work, and what do they do for fun? They work some more, and they never develop their FI inferior. So their fear of being a bad person, of not having self-value, not personal worth, and they allow themselves to sometimes to attract parasites in their lives who take advantage of them. Why? Because SE child wants to make everyone's life comfortable, wants to entertain other people, wants to give everyone a good experience, and they do this very generously and very freely. TE Hero likes the status that comes from being something. You see TE Hero always trying to bring attention to themselves in some way. They want people to recognize what they've done, their accomplishments. They always have all their degrees and stuff, and open eyes for everyone to see, and see how good their children are, what they've done, all this kind of status. But if they don't fix that FI inferior and learn to value themselves, this can pose a problem, and they don't get to work with their NI parent function because they're too busy feeling bad about themselves or fearing that they're a bad person, that they don't allow themselves to want. And what does this mean? It means they're going to have their critic function taking over their lives, and they're critical about what everyone else wants, everyone else's goals, and they're just critical of it. And so with that loop causes them not to want anything because they don't want to be irresponsible either. Okay? So how could you, as an ENTJ, learn to value yourself more and do something else besides just what everyone wants you to do, or what you feel you have to do out of just responsibility? Well, what can you do? You need to be with somebody who appreciates you. Okay? And because you have SI tricks, you kind of forget how good of a person you are in the first place. So you can be forgetful, spacey head. So if you have a consistent person, preferably an SI user who's loyal to you, like SE child wants loyalty, it keeps reminding you of the good things you do and why they're with you and things like that. This will let you get over your fears. Okay? And so as an extrovert, ENTJs, I argue, is the biggest extrovert there is. Even though the funny thing about it is they are double background, because their shadow is an INTP and their aspiration is ISFP, which makes them double background. So many ENTJs think they're introverts just because they tend to be okay alone. But when they're out, they're talking to everybody, they're initiating conversations, they're just like, TE Hero's just like, hey, what do you think about this? Hey, did you know this? Let me teach you something, and they're just like all optimistic and crap. SE Child, super optimistic, and just like talking to people. Did you, like one ENTJ I was dating back in the day always like wanted to like BurgerFi and just talk to people behind the counter, be like, do you know the history of your restaurant? And like they're always trying to educate everybody. So they're very extroverted. And so with that extroversion, they need to surround themselves with good people and people who appreciate their FI and their moral and ask them how they feel and to bring it out and let them express themselves and not to be afraid of their feelings and not to keep it all bottled down and not to be afraid of it and to learn to value themselves, not just as a capable person or a talented person, but as a good person, a person who has a very strong moral compass, a very strong moral agenda in life, and the ability to want to help other people. Many times they bottle this down and then they focus so much on appearing good and they don't really focus on actually being good. And so if you're an ENTJ and you're struggling with NI parent about getting what you really want to do, but you're putting them in the back burner because you're afraid to be irresponsible because everyone else is, and so you're not wanting things, you're not setting goals for yourself anymore after you've already kind of accomplished what you just need to do. You need to be around people who strengthen that FI inferior and get you over your fears so you can start valuing yourself and then you can start making goals for yourself. This is particularly hard for the ENTJ female because ENTJs are very emasculating. They are the alpha alpha. I think they're the most alpha type of all 16. You can argue ESTP, but at least to the abstracts, they're definitely the biggest alpha. And so if you're an ENTJ girl growing up, more than likely your father's an SP, and he's not going to want some bossy chief overseer type person, as his daughter, and so he can very degrading, beating her down, keeping them very shadow focused. They never get to work on that inferior function. They're like, well, dad's always mad at me because I was talking back or I'm always being direct and I must be a bad person, you know. The males can get away with this a little bit more because, in most Western society, typically speaking, men are more accepted in leadership roles. The world is changing, so it's getting better, but if you're 50 years old or you're 40 years old, you've already gone through a different generation of, no, women are supposed to be supportive, they're supposed to be, submissive, they're supposed to do this, and more than likely, they also had a mother who's an SJ, like my sister. My mother is an ISFJ, and she was always mean to my sister about, oh, you're not going to get a good man if you do this kind of stuff. Oh, you need to be doing this kind of way, because she was also raised as Jehovah's Witness, so that didn't help either. And so, especially in a Christian or some kind of Islamic or religious household, and they're trying to enforce that Middle Eastern, this is the way women are supposed to act on you over and over again, you're gonna struggle with feeling as a good person and having self-value. And so you need to be around people who strengthen that value system, and that's how you can start wanting things again.